There is a word in the English language that allows storytellers a multitude of creative paths littered with stories that can cover a wide range of representation that most art forms otherwise couldn't. This method is anthropomorphism, and it's racist. Anthropomorphism is furries. Well, okay, that's not actually true, but think about modern problems. Racism, classism, sexism, but make it your dog's problem. Anthropomorphism has been around for hundreds of years. Many believe it started with the Egyptians around 2686 BC because of their pantheon of gods. However, this is false because those characters aren't anthropomorphic, they're zoomorphic. Not to be confused with what Whitney, Wisconsin is.
I fuck dogs.
Get over it.
The main difference between the two types is one assigns animal qualities to non-animal subjects, like humans, whilst the other assigns human qualities to non-human subjects. The earliest example of anthropomorphism dates back around 32,000 years ago. That's almost as old as your mum. I'm just kidding. How is she, by the way? She's not been returning my calls. Germany was where it was discovered. It's called the Lauensmensch figurine. Listen, Germany, we forgave you. The least you could do is forgive me for that pronunciation. The figurine is that of a lion which is standing on its hind legs in a similar fashion to a person. The world can truly be a confusing place, and that is one of the main reasons people anthropomorphize things. It allows us to make sense of the senseless, find order within the chaos. Many people are so used to anthropomorphizing things that they see things that aren't there. Not in a schizo way, more like looking at a bus seat fabric and seeing a face appear. Congratulations! If you've ever done that, you've anthropomorphized a bus seat. There are a vast number of reasons we anthropomorphize. Whether it's to relate to things, reinforce connections, creating vivid characters, adding symbolic meaning, or creating accessible explanations. So, strap in and strap on as we take a look at why anthropomorphism is used in animation, and oh yeah, how furries are linked to racism. But we'll get to that soon. Anthropomorphism can be used in two very different ways in my eyes, one that serves the narrative and one that doesn't. In the animated series about a 25-year-old office worker who copes with her day-to-day life frustrations with the power of karaoke and singing heavy metal songs, this show is filled with a world of anthropomorphic characters where their animal traits don't have any effect on the characters at all. You might expect the hyena character to be energetic and sneaky in the show, but he's just a loser. Another example of animated media where anthropomorphism doesn't affect the story is the children's show Bluey, about a family of dogs where each episode they teach not just the children, but the adults too, important lessons. Brother Bear follows the story of Kenai, who goes to hunt the bear that ended his brother's life. He succeeds, but angers the spirits, causing them to change Kenai into a bear as punishment. In order to regain his humanity, he must go where the northern lights touch the earth. On his way, he meets a young bear cub. The two set out on an adventure where Kenai learns about the life as a bear, from its highest highs to its terrifying lows. Puss in Boots 2, the story about Puss losing his last life, causing him to lose his fearless nature. Anthropomorphism is used here throughout the entire movie, not only in the animal characters like Puss, Kitty, and Jiminy Cricket, but also used for the villain of Death in two ways. One, it turns Death into a character, but it goes a step further by making him sexy? Sexy? Who wrote sexy?
Look, man, I'm just quoting what people are saying about him.
Alright. Now that we've covered what anthropomorphism is and how it works, let's talk about some films and television series that include anthropomorphism and how it allows creators a wider range of stories, unique characters, and a range of representation that most media couldn't cover. First up, Beastars. It's the story of a civilized-ish society of anthropomorphic animals, but there is an uneasy feeling that exists between the carnivores and the herbivores. Racial bias. The series first takes place around Cheriton Academy, where a herbivore named Tem was recently murdered. He was also a member of the drama club, so his death begins to cause uneasy tension between the other members. There are four ways I believe anthropomorphism is used in Beastars. We have classism, racism, stereotypes, and relationships. The carnivore population is struggling, walking the line of wanting to be normal citizens, but also wanting to give in to their deep animalistic desires of devouring any herbivore they want. Now, this is absolutely brilliant, as it shows an interesting dynamic between the animal side and the more human side that we don't get to see a lot in anthropomorphic media. Watching characters struggle with their base animal desires, but also understanding the impact that giving into those desires cause, allows us to see this psychological torture that is their life. They're more like animals that become human-like. It allows for the audience to see a version of anthropomorphism where they have animal instincts and use things like that type of species to tell a more interesting story that can reflect on our own world. Beastars also shows how certain types of animals are treated in this world like a second-class citizen, and how they are treated not just in their society, but also in their own families. Take the character of Legoshi, for example, a giant herbivore that wants to bury his bone in a rabbit hole.
What? Oh, hell no!
Jokes aside, this character is a brilliant representation of showing how certain predators are ostracized simply for existing. Even though with all the time we spend with him, he's never done anything to warrant this sort of treatment. If you ignore, eating his friend's leg and, all the other stuff he's done. But just forget about that. Spoilers for season 3, by the way. When it comes to his family history, he's actually a quarter Komodo dragon, inherited from his grandfather, a breed of lizard that is highly venomous. Due to this trait, Komodo dragons are treated drastically different from other carnivore species. They're forced to sit at the back of restaurants, aren't allowed in certain places due to the public worrying about their venom. They can't go into places like public pools, baths, and any other leisurely facilities. It's all off limits. Their venomous attributes made them an easy target for discrimination. This fear drove the stereotype that Komodo dragons were terrible people, but in reality, they just had a trait that they had no control over. Whilst dangerous to other species, that doesn't mean they're inherently bad people. I think this was an interesting way for the creator to represent how certain races and stereotypes exist in the world, because they heavily reflect on our own world and how we stereotype certain races and groups, such as blacks, Muslims, Asians, gays, trans, and French people. And whilst I could give you examples of these stereotypes, I'm not in the mood for making a my response video, so be a big boy, pull up your booty shorts, and go list some in the comments. Using anthropomorphism has allowed creators to tell stories about race and stereotypes without snowflakes screaming about how things are being shoved down their throats. And honestly, with how much they keep saying that, I'm starting to think things being shoved down their throats is what they want. One of the issues that is talked about in Beastars is interspecies relationships. The main example of this in the show is between Legoshi, our local rabbit Rutter, and Haru, the rabbit. Interspecies relationships are looked down upon quite a bit as people see it as unnatural. It's similar to how interracial or same-sex relationships are still looked down upon in a lot of cultures today. Using anthropomorphic characters' interspecies relationship allows a storyteller to talk about different topics without being specific. They're using the words between the words, telling you to read between the lines. This is what Beastars does so well. It uses anthropomorphism for a range of topics compared to animated media that just uses humans, because with humans we have different skin, hair, eyes, height, and many features that people subconsciously judge, but when you use anthropomorphic characters, you simply just have animals. It falls under the less is more area. They use anthropomorphic characters that more people can relate to. The final way they use anthropomorphism is with how characters point out that in their world, certain animals are treated better or worse. They begin to notice things, and instead of just being judgmental and stereotyping, they learn and change their ways on how they view things. In the Beastars manga, Jack, who is Legoshi's best friend, points out that dogs are a mutated version of wolves, and while some dog breeds are smarter, wolves are more impressive with their natural strength, builds, and senses. In an article called "Ethnic Minorities Are Less Likely to Find Good Work Than Their White British Counterparts Even While Born in the UK," it goes into detail about how white British people are more likely to hear back from job opportunities than ethnic minorities would. This article is an example of how race can have a huge impact on one's life, which Beastars touched upon throughout the plot. Now, what if we compared Beastars' use of anthropomorphism to something with a similar world? For those of you that haven't seen the 2016 Disney hit movie Zootopia, it follows the story of a rookie cop named Judy Hopps, who finds out about an evil plot to make prey fear predators and to segregate the different groups. She gets help from a sly fox named Nick, who wants her to fail this case, but soon begins helping her as they find out what's truly going on. This movie uses anthropomorphism in what I believe is 4 ways: classism, representation, diversity, and stereotypes. Classism in Zootopia is like in Beastars, with how their world is composed of animals that are split into 2 separate groups. Beastars has carnivores and herbivores, while Zootopia has predators and prey. Part of the central plot of this movie revolves around this predator and prey dynamic, and how in the city of Zootopia, the population is 90% prey and 10% predator. The use of anthropomorphism is mainly used for the representation of 2 points, which are race and sex. Predators and prey are used as stand-in terms for things like black, white, men, women. What proves this is the way predators and prey treat each other and how they are treated in the world of Zootopia. There's a scene where Judy Hopps is in a training montage, and in the background you can hear parents say, "There has never been a bunny cop." Now, if you replace bunnies with women or black, then it can reflect on events in our own world. For example, Miss Edith Smith. During World War I, she became the first female police officer who had official powers to arrest in Gratham, Lincolnshire in December 1915. This was not without its controversy though, like how the chief of the ZPD in Zootopia didn't want a bunny cop to be an officer, similar to the people who oppress women's rights didn't want Edith Smith to be a police officer. Zootopia also represents race and discrimination against people of color, such as within 19 minutes of the film, an elephant ice cream worker asks Nick, "There aren't any Fox joints in your part of town," and when given a response, they snap back with, "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone." Despite the fact that racial discrimination is still present to this day, such phrases were used in a period of history where racial discrimination was at its highest and most potent. 1896, when the US released separate but equal laws. To simplify the laws, it was made to keep white and black people separate, but giving them the same conditions on the premise of being equal, when in reality it was the opposite of equality. It allowed businesses to put up signs where they could only serve white customers, and only white people could sit at the counter, whilst people of color could not not enter or would not even be served in most cases. Now, Nick does manage to get his popsicle, but it was only thanks to Judy, who was an officer, but also prey. If Judy wasn't there, then it would easily say that Nick wouldn't have been served at all. Like Beastars, stereotypes are also mixed into this film. The character Nick Wilde is stereotyped as sly and shady because he's a fox. This causes characters to either not like him or think things he does are not to be trusted. However, it turns out the reason Nick enforces these stereotypes on himself with what he does is because he believes you can only be what you are. Sly fox, dumb bunny. What adds to the stereotyping of Nick is that it's not just himself who believes this. As Chief Bogo says, "You think I'm going to believe a fox?" Only adding to the characterization that foxes are shifty and untrustworthy. Our main character Judy is also put under the microscope of stereotyping. A bunny is too weak or dumb to be a real cop. She's just a meter maid, she's not a real cop, she's a performer. As the movie progresses though, we see that these stereotypes that everyone is portrayed with aren't true. Judy catches the bad guy, proving she's a real cop. Nick becomes trustworthy and joins the ZPD, proving to not only others, but also himself that you don't have to be who everyone thinks you are. So, why is anthropomorphism used in animation? It allows creators to tell stories and make characters resonate with other groups that can often feel mistreated when it comes to representation, or can relate to characters more than they would relate to some human characters. This is why anthropomorphism is used in animation. Not only does it allow for diversity, but it brings people together and allows one to understand each other in ways we didn't know we could. Or that's what I think at least. Look, it's been a while since I've made one of these thinky video essay type things. Honestly, I'm just reusing an essay project I wrote for a university class a few years ago. I want to see if I could turn it into a video that made sense. Anyway, subscribe if you enjoyed the video and tell me if my idea of why anthropomorphism is used in animation makes sense, or if it's just the ramblings of a shut-in. If I'm wrong about anything, you know, comment down below. If you think a point doesn't make sense, you know, just tell me, you know. I'd honestly remake this video if I had a more thought out process, but, you know, I just kind of wanted to, you know, get it done and just see what I could make. Anyway, subscribe, see ya.